we've been doing virtual visits since May of last year, and we've mostly been talking about um, basically sort of art history, and by which I mean sort of the distant past. So we're going to start a series of visits with contemporary artists. So I live in Florence, as y'all know. We're close to Florence in any event. On the map, you can actually see where Florence is this little pink dot, and I'm out here in the countryside, just southwest of Florence, but close enough. So I have actually got a good group of friends who are artists. And so I thought we would kind of throw into the mix here some visits with contemporary artists. And today I'm very happy that my friend Alessandro Barellini is here. This is Alessandro.
Hi, everybody.
We're very lucky that our current COVID restrictions permit this kind of get together, which is not really even a get together, but we're allowed to be here in my kitchen. So we're very happy about that. And Alessandro is literally, I think, one of my oldest friends in Tuscany. We were trying to figure out today, we met in either 1999 or 2000.
2000, yes.
And we think maybe 2000. So we've known each other really
Few
for
years ago.
It was a few years ago. I know we've really known each other for a long time. And Alessandro's my food friend. We like to eat well and drink well, and we're sort of always on the hunt for good food and wine. So we're going to talk about what he does, and I'm going to show you where I live, and then I'm going to really tell you why I invited Alessandro here today. And it's not just because his grandmother has really good recipes, but we're also going to talk about his grandmother's recipes. So first of all, just so y'all have an idea where we are, again, Florence is the upper pink dot there on the map. And where I live at the Castle of Popiano is just to the southwest. The inset, though, shows you where Alessandro's showroom is and workshop or bottega or atelier.
Bottega is the Florentine name for the atelier or workshop,
Okay.
where you can work and have your showroom also.
So yeah, he has that kind of
an old way to bottega.
Right, so you'll see his bottega in a minute, and it's at the pink dot there on the inset map. So he's really in the historic center of Florence, on the other side of the Arno in the artisan corridor, and I'll show you a picture so you kind of get an idea of where he's located. So just quickly, here's where I am, the Castle of Popiano. I rent from the Counts Guicciardini, and you can see the castle there where the counts live, and then the view from the tower out over the hills. And then this is my house with that great wild plum tree blooming. So my house is right down here, and so we're sitting right here inside my kitchen. So the reason I have invited Alessandro here is because, to me, he is one of the people who represents something that is fundamental to the way I work. Even when I work with food producers, to me, this is also it's fundamental, the idea of maintaining tradition, but maintaining tradition in a certain way. And I hinted at this in the announcement email that I sent out. And I'm not sure if any of y'all clicked on the link to see that T.S. Eliot essay, but T.S. Eliot, the writer, in 1919, he wrote an essay. He was mostly talking about poetry, but he was talking about art, and it was called Tradition in the Individual Talent. And he really analyzed what is tradition, what does it mean to maintain tradition, and what does a contemporary artist do with tradition. And what Alessandro does with tradition is what my favorite food artisans do with tradition as well. So this is what I look for when I'm looking for the food artisans. And then, as it happens, of course, it's nice that Alessandro kind of takes part in this. And so the idea is, and I'm going to read a couple of quotes too from this essay in case y'all didn't get through the entire T.S. Eliot essay, which you might not have, and that's okay. So I'm going to fill you in. So what Eliot says is that maintaining tradition does not mean just repeating a recipe or copying a formula. So that's really that's a recipe for extinction is what it is. So the key is to maintain tradition dynamic. And in order to do that, as Eliot says, an artist has to basically have a historical sense or a historical memory. And he has this very clear, very interesting way of looking at the past. So Eliot says that an artist should have a historical sense, which is a perception of the past and a perception of the past in the present. So to put that another way, William Faulkner in Requiem for a Nun wrote, "The past is never dead. It's not even past." So there's this idea of historical memory, which when you're in Europe, it's a little bit it's almost palpable because there's so much history here, and people really feel like the Punic War was yesterday. In the United States, we don't so much have that, just because we're such a young country. But Faulkner got it. The past is never dead. It's not even past. And so another way that Eliot put it is that the conscious present is an awareness of the past. So an artist, in order to maintain tradition, has to know all of that. He has to have absorbed everything that came before him. He has to be able to kind of input his own creativity, but in a way that makes sense, and then prepare it for the future. That way, tradition is alive and tradition is dynamic. That's what makes it kind of interesting for us, right? We're not just looking at the same old ring that they've been making for the past 500 years. We're not just making the same old chicken they've been making for the past 500 years either. We're definitely kind of, we're keeping things contemporary. And so that's kind of the point. And so the way that artists do this is to have an awareness of the past, realize how that past is active today, how it's actually today, it's with us. The past is not dead. It's not even past. That's an awareness of kind of the grander scheme of things, right? We say, see the forest and not just the trees. And then to me, it's like having an awareness of your cultural relevancy, but in a very humble way. So a person who works in this way, kind of with this kind of philosophy, this approach to tradition, it's not like they think they're so great, they're allowed to mess with tradition. They don't think that at all. They're the most humble people, but they have a sense, because they have this great historical memory, they can place themselves in the timeline. They have a kind of a coherent way of looking at the timeline of their art. And the first time I had this discussion was with a pastry chef in Sicily. And he said to me, the great Corrado Ascenza, who I think some of y'all have met and some of y'all may have read about, he tends to drop pearls of wisdom. And he said he received the treasure box of these recipes from this ancient convent, and he has injected his own. He's done just what we just talked about. He's absorbed all of that. He knows where he is in the timeline, and so he has injected his own kind of creativity into this. And he's doing it so that he can pass that treasure box along to the next generation, which in his case is his son. And so the idea is to kind of maintain that tradition so that it keeps a life into the future and doesn't just peter out. Because if you just repeat that recipe 800 times for the next 600 years, then it's not going to make it that long. It's just people are going to lose interest before it gets that far. So I think that's just a really cool way to look at things. And it's interesting that if you listen to artists talk, they kind of all say the same thing. So William Faulkner said it. Corrado Ascenza said it. There's a great movie, which is a documentary done by Jim Jarmusch, and he interviews Iggy Pop. So it's called Gimme Danger, and it's a documentary of Iggy Pop. And Iggy Pop, he's got this reputation maybe on a surface level for like the heroin addict, punk rocker dude, but he is so coherent. He is a great artist. He completely knows his place in the timeline, and it's really interesting to hear him talk about his place in the whole sort of in his field, and then everybody else who works around him. So it's really, he just completely fits into the same sort of maintaining tradition, and of course in his art, which is rock music. So Alessandro's here, and he's maintaining tradition in oreficeria, which is goldsmithing and in the Florentine style. So we're going to talk about Florentine goldsmiths and basically the modern history of Florentine goldsmithing or oreficeria starts in 1252. So, ancient history would be to talk about the Etruscans, which I decided to skip because we don't have time for that. That's before the Roman Empire. We're going to start with modern history, which is 1252. So we're still kind of in the medieval period, but we're going to call that modern, because then we're going to jump into contemporary. So goldsmithing in Florence really started in 1252 when the first gold florin was minted. And Florence became, in the early medieval period, a really sort of superpower of global trade. And there were merchants here and businessmen and bankers who were literally working all over the known world, and they needed a stable currency, and they minted the 24 karat gold florin, which had a stable weight and stable value for literally hundreds of years. So while certain currencies maybe were inflated or deflated, the florin was stable, and you could sort of count on that. So Florence is this place with powerful merchant and banking families, and the emblem here really is the florin. So because they were minting florins here, there was know-how about how to work metal, and there was gold. So the raw materials were here as well. But more than that, the florin is really this emblem of this great merchant culture that flowered in medieval Florence. Because of that, there were patrons who actually had money to commission works of art, not only from goldsmiths, but from painters and sculptors as well. So there's all sorts, all of the great works of art that one sees when they come to Florence were commissioned thanks to these families who had made so much money doing their international trade. One of the biggest things that they were trading in kind of the basis of the economy in medieval Florence was the cloth trade. Wool, but also silk. And that kind of ties into goldsmithing, in that the kind of the silk and luxury textile market actually used gold thread. And there were goldsmiths who they fashioned thread that was actually woven into these textiles. And Alessandro was telling me earlier that gold is suitable for this because it
has a lot of properties, and the gold can become like a really, really small piece, and you can work on
ductile, you said.
It's really.
But there's a word called I think it's ductile. I think it's the word which we learned back in ninth grade science, and I haven't used it since then. But he used that word today. So the properties that gold has, you can actually sort of work it and thin it out. You can actually thin out pure gold until it's a thread. You can't do that with other metals, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not only expensive or precious, it has some good properties. And this is the reason, because it's used not only to make jewelry, but to do a lot of other things.
So gold is interesting for that reason. It's not just sparkly pretty, but it actually has these interesting properties physically that other metals do not have. So because of the luxury textile market, both manufacturing and sales that were coming out of Florence, the goldsmiths were kind of attached to what was kind of almost like a labor union, the guild called the Arte della Seta. And included in the Arte della Seta were different types of laborers, but also the metal workers, the goldsmiths. So the goldsmiths were making this metal thread so that they could make these luxury textiles. Goldsmiths also did things like illustrate illuminated manuscripts. You can see on the right, that's actually a musical score, as it is, kind of medieval musical score with an illuminated initial. That's the letter H with a nativity scene on the interior. But you can see all the gold leaf in there. These things are really precious, and they tended to use gold leaf when they were painting the very elaborate initials. So goldsmiths, or basically metal workers, also did this kind of stuff. They made jewelry, they cast stones they set stones, they cast metals, they worked in enamel as well, they worked in engraving, they also made monumental sculpture. They were doing anything that had something to do with metal. So when you think about goldsmithing, you may think about things like this, which are literally pieces of jewelry. These are pieces of jewelry that you can see in the Museo degli Argenti in Palazzo Pitti. This is the treasure of the Grand Dukes of Tuscany. And you can see here these really elaborate, these are more kind of Baroque pieces with all of these, really kind of luscious freshwater pearls, precious stones, semi-precious stones. There's a lot of enamel in here as well for the color, particularly that wreath, that green wreath on the left. Goldsmiths also did objects like this. You can see on the right a timepiece, really elaborate, a watch, basically like a pocket watch. Again, these are also objects that are in the collections of the tesoro, or the treasury of the Grand Dukes. In the center, there's that gorgeous lapis lazuli kind of a cup with, in the shape of a seashell. And I love the handle is a snake with that enamel.
It's enamel.
And how did they made enamel that would almost turn to glass? How did they do that?
I mean, it's a silicio, it's like a
silica, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So you mix, it's a long process, and then they need to be cooked at 900 degrees Celsius, I don't know, in
So they
Fahrenheit.
mix the color with the
They mix
silica?
the color, they clean, they wash, they clean our little piece of silicium, and there are only few colors. Then
Oh,
they are cooked in the oven around 1,000 degrees, 900, 1,000, it depends. And it become like glass. And
oh,
it's
cool.
really fragile also. I
Oh,
mean, I use enamel, and I used also to do this use this technique, but normally now we use a different. I mean, we are in our age, so it's a little technology helped us. So we use synthetic, which are resin that you can do a lot of colors, can do everything, and mostly is a little different, but the reason is also because if we were doing a ring and it fell down, can broke immediately, but it's really wonderful. I mean, the works are made in this way.
so he's basically, we'll show you some of his designs in a minute, but the enamel that you see here on the handle of this vase is made in is made in such a way that he was saying he's done that, but it's so fragile. So he's kind of using technology to make something that's a little bit more durable, so we can actually wear it and have our.
And also easier to do. I mean, this
Oh,
process is pretty complicated, long, and it takes time, but
okay.
that's
Okay.
really good.
So the guys who were doing this, the people who were doing these really complicated processes, were in the workshop of the Goldsmith Workshop of the Grand Dukes of Tuscany. And if you want to see those pieces, you just go to the Palazzo Pitti and you can go in there and you can see these pieces that are on view. They've kind of full of Wunderkammer objects all over the place. But in Florence, you can also, just walking around town, get a really good feel for the history of goldsmithing. And I was talking to Alessandro about this earlier. He grew up, he was born here, he grew up here. He literally, if he was going out with his friends, he walked right by here. If he was going to class, he walked right by here. I'm like, well, yeah, I was hanging out in the parking lot behind the 7-Eleven. It was a little bit different. Like, just the visuals that I was getting were different from the visuals that he was getting. So literally just walking around Florence, even if you're not, if you're a kind of a sensitive artist type, then you're going to absorb some of this stuff. And so I'm just going to show y'all two, basic, literally kind of, outdoor spots, right in the heart of downtown Florence. This is the Baptistery of the Duomo, and it has 3 sets of cast bronze doors. And y'all may remember that in the medieval age, cast bronze doors were kind of a thing. So here's the first set. This was Andrea Pisano. He's cast various formelle, which are the little plaques. He's done Old Testament scenes. Here you can see Salome and the head of. I just realized we have 3 beheadings in this lesson. It just occurred to me. Sorry, I don't know why. I don't know what I'm thinking. I just accidentally picked beheading. So this is Salome and the head of John the Baptist, shown in this 1336. So medieval kind of style quadrifoil frame around this very simple kind of stage with the scene, the Old Testament scene in low relief. The next set of doors is on the north side. North. Okay, this is the second set of doors, and the one of these great cloth guilds, the Cloth Importers Guild, sponsored these doors, and they actually had a contest to see who they were going to give the commission to, and it came down to Lorenzo Ghiberti and Filippo Brunelleschi, and Ghiberti got the commission. Brunelleschi turns out is sort of maybe more the kind of forward-thinking artist, and he ended up getting excellent commissions here at the Duomo as well. He's the guy who actually designed. He was an engineer as well. He started out as a goldsmith. Brunelleschi actually started out life in a goldsmith shop. He was an artist. He did sculpture. He also was a great engineer, and he's the guy who designed the amazing Duomo of Florence, and that will be the subject of another talk. But unfortunately, in the year 1401, he lost the commission to Ghiberti. Alessandro told me today that he had heard that Brunelleschi was like, actually, they were going to share it.
Yeah, no, the fact is that the Ghiberti said that I won, and Brunelleschi said we were together in the same level, but I give to you because, but you know, there are all voices around,
But
and
the thing is,
we don't really know what's
all right, so
happening.
we don't really know, but the voices are around. So that's historical memory. Okay, this happened in 1401, and the voices that he heard, which are still around today, or that Brunelleschi said that actually it was a tie and they were going to work together on the project, but Brunelleschi wasn't really interested in sharing the glory. And so he said, no, 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 you can take it. And actually, I just read that Ghiberti's working methods used less material. And so his budget was way under Brunelleschi. So throw all that into the mix. And anyway, these are both super good artists. This is 1401, the competition between Ghiberti and Brunelleschi. On full view, the Ghiberti doors on the exterior of the baptistry. And I've put that in here because when you're in art history school, they tell you this is the day the Renaissance started. So Brunelleschi was such that he kind of was pushing the edge of the envelope. In 1401, this competition, that's the day the Italian Renaissance got started. So Ghiberti, though, had an illustrious career, and he was an amazing metal worker, and there's a lot to be learned from him. And here we are, another set of doors, also by Ghiberti. These are the east doors facing the Duomo. And Michelangelo coined them the Gates of Paradise. These are done by Ghiberti about 1440. And you can tell what kind of, he's really moved into more of a Renaissance style. He's not using the figures placed on the little cloudy stage set inside the quadrifoil frame. He's using all the space that he can, and he's using that rilievo schiacciato type of very low relief, which he actually learned from Donatello. And these were done using, all of these doors were made. In fact, all the objects we're going to look at, including many of Alessandro's objects, were done using the lost wax casting process, which we have talked about before, and we'll talk about in a moment when we look at some of Alessandro's objects, but that's how these were done. So the artist works in wax, from which you make a cast or a mold of some sort, maybe terracotta, maybe something else. Today they use other materials that are not necessarily terracotta. And you can actually, in that way, using heat, melt out the wax and pour in the metal so that you then have an exact replica of what you created in wax.
You need to work after, because it's, I mean, you have to refine everything. It's not so
it's not as simple as I say it is.
Yeah, but I mean, the same technique they were used 100 years ago are the same exactly we are using now. Of course, there is help in our help. There is a bit of technology, but the base of the work is the same.
Basically, and he'll show you some of his wax models in a second. So I'm just going to show you really quickly 2 more sculptures just to get some more beheadings in here. I really don't know why I chose 3 beheadings. Yeah. Perché ho capito beheading? Decollamento. Sono 3. So here's Piazza Signoria, gorgeous. There are some knives over there. You better watch out.
There are knives around here. We have to cook. So
this is gorgeous Piazza Signoria. Again, if you're, when I was hanging out drinking a beer in the parking lot behind the 7-Eleven, Alessandro was hanging out drinking a beer with his friends right about here, with Donatello on one side and Benvenuto Cellini on the other. So here's the Donatello, Judith beheading Holofernes, 1460. Wonderful kind of movimentato sculptural group that is in movement. Which this is, again, kind of Renaissance. So we're going to move into the Baroque. And as you move across the piazza and you go into this is the Loggia dei Lanzi, and under this arch is the great Benvenuto Cellini, Perseus with the head of Medusa. And he's really actually kind of done what the composition in any event is actually not too dissimilar from what Donatello did. But in any event, just look at even the chasing work on here, the kind of delicate modeling that was done on the clay, on the wax model. So, just think about Alessandro, 16 years old, having a beer with his buddies right here underneath him in the shadow of Benvenuto Cellini. So Alessandro, he studied actually agraria, like agricultural sciences. I'm not sure how we say that anymore. And then he ended up in architecture. He is a really curious person. He's kind of got this engineering mind. And if, something's broken in my house, I give it to him to fix it because he can figure out the mechanisms and stuff.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I like mechanism. I like how things are working. So I'm really curious. Yes.
He's very curious. So he's started out in agriculture, and then he ended up in architecture, and then he ended up taking a kind of metalworking and jewelry making course, and he decided to do that. And in 1999, The same year I got to Italy, he opened his bottega, which is in the artisan quarter called Oltrarno on the other side of the river near Piazza Santo Spirito. These are some kind of little roads going down to the river. So he's right on the river across from this gorgeous Palazzo Corsini, which you see here. The Corsini also have a countryside estate, which is just down the road. And then Alessandro rents from the Guicciardinis on Lungarno Guicciardini here at the end of the Ponte Santa Trinita.
Same family of this area, actually.
And so I rent from the same family. It's a different branch of the family, but I rent my house from one branch of the Count's Guicciardini, and he rents his space called Idrus from, I think it's the sister, the Count's. Anyway, another branch of the family. It's all of those noble people, them.
We cannot see here, but there is a garden on the roof.
Oh, nice.
Unfortunately, I didn't get the photo, but it's pretty nice. I mean,
do you get to go? Do you get to use it?
Yeah, I mean, we can.
I didn't know that. That next time we'll have to go in town and have a cocktail.
I mean, it's not mine, but I can ask to go to see, you know.
So this is his Alessandro's showroom, and then this is his workspace. So this is his bottega where he actually works. And so do you want to tell us about?
This is the laboratorio. You know, we call bottega is when you work and you can have people that can come. And you can see a little chaos because it's not too big. And you know, when you work, you need a lot of things. And I don't know the word in English, but accumulator. I mean, I'm trying.
He's a hoarder. That's what he is.
Everything.
But you know what he told me though? He tries to be. He's not super neat, but he tries to be careful with the gold because little bits of gold fly off, and it costs. You know, stuff's expensive, so he tries to kind of keep all the gold dust in one place.
Yeah, we use special tools. The bench is made in a way that all the powder of gold can be saved. As you can see, you know, they are all. You see, there is a carve, so all the gold is falling down. I mean, we are trying to take care, but of course there are things that are lost.
So he has a backup mechanism to catch the bits of gold that drop.
Yeah, you know.
So this little plinth is a really common part of a metal worker's banco or work desk, which you can. It's here. It's right here. You can see that little plinth is right there. So that allows them, I guess, to have a place to actually sort of put the object down while they have to do such intricate work on these tiny objects. And then,
I mean, this is I'm sold as you see. I mean, 100 years ago they used to soldering things. I mean, I'm using a technological. I mean, what is on my age. Stuff, but you know, you can as my master was using to say, with few tools, just a hammer and really few tools, you can create something. Of course, now we are helped by.
So he uses. So y'all may have heard me say this when I make olive oil, and I basically make olive oil using the same method the ancient Romans used, but I use modern technology. And that's what he's doing. He's making jewelry by hand himself, specifically. He is actually doing this personally, but he's, taking advantage of technology when he can. So his excuse me, his casting process is slightly simplified from what, the ancient Greeks were doing, for example, because of technology. But these are some of the designs that he makes.
These are your favorite rings.
So look, I'm wearing one right now. Can y'all see? Seme. So this is called seme, which means seeds, which makes me think back to his agricultural background.
Yeah, I mean, that's our coming. Seme is the seed, yeah, exactly. It's the shape that I like. Also because I really like nature and what is around. It's a simple design, as you can see. It's all surrounded by diamonds or precious stones, and they are stuck ring. But I really like simple things. I mean, I use the lines. I like clean lines, and something little complicated. As you can see, this ring. This is a ring that is made in few pieces, and it's stacking. You can open and insert another part, so you can switch. And now you see. Now those three pieces, they match together. As you can see, there is one part on the left one is enamel, and this enamel that I'm using.
So this is the synthetic enamel, not
this is a synthetic.
So that doesn't break.
I mean, I used to do this also with the original that we call heat enamel, means you need to cook. This enamel is easier to use, of course, but mostly you can use as a ring without problems, differently than the other that is really strong because it's glass, but can broke if it fell down.
So this one you can use this. You can wear that while you're gardening. You're not going to hurt it.
Yeah.
But here's an example. This is one of my favorites. So this is actually, yeah, this is still the same collection, Magia or Magic, where you can combine the 3 different parts and change. You can change colors in the middle at will. You can have the black enamel or the black diamonds, and then here it is in a pendant. But you can see, look how the pendant comes apart. Remember when I said he's an engineer and he likes all these little complex mechanisms and he can take stuff apart and put it back together? Check that out. So how do you even, I think this must open like, your iPhone, you stick a little pin in there and the whole thing pops open? Yeah. Is that how this?
I mean, I really like to interact with the customer, with test, with things. So in this way, I mean, my idea is that you can make your own idea of a piece of jewelry even. And of course, I direct the way to do that. But you can change stones, you can change color of gold, you can use diamond instead of rubies or emerald or whatever. And anyway, you have the same piece, even if it's completely different.
So it's fun. It's like flexible and fun, and you can kind of use, like, he lets you be creative. He gives you all of his creativity, and then you can kind of do it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. This.
And then here's
exactly. This is the enamel. You can see in the ring. Right. This is named Dune because I was inspired by the sparkling sand under the sun. I was doing a trip, so I really like. So inside this ring, there are all set diamonds. There are around 600 diamonds, all set in this way to get the light in the right way from one side, from another to spark. And of the same line. On the left is I use the enamel, so with a lot of colors, a lot of ways. Those rings are sculpted in the wax, and then the process is lost wax.
Let's show them.
Is exactly the same technique that were used a lot of years ago. I mean, try to show. I mean, maybe it's better to see for real these kind of things, but
So here's some of the enamel ones that he makes using the lost wax process. These are the enamel colored ones, and then this is
just to show you.
There's a big, huge. How many quantity?
These are around 630.
Look at it. It's encrusted.
I lost.
He lost count.
And the eyes.
And then this is. I'm modeling tonight. Actually, these rings are my very own rings. I'm lucky enough to have some Alessandro rings, but I'm modeling the Dune pendant tonight. So this, if y'all can, I don't know if y'all can see that, it's the same. See how it totally takes the light the way he was saying. The different facets kind of. The light works off of each other. So this one, he's actually got he has the wax model.
As I said, I mean, this is the wax that we use. Of course, is modern, it's technological.
It's harder than candle wax.
Before, I mean, the 14th century, probably they were using beaded wax mixed with some clay, something. And from this, we arrive with few passages to the right shape, and then we sculpt. I mean, I don't know if I can come. I mean, sorry, just okay. I'm sorry, it's not so easy to see, but basically with these kind of instruments that are used, are cutter, are used for metal usually to engrave on the metal. We engrave, and so the ring is sculpted, and once it's done, we do the lost wax process. The same, more or less, of course.
So I'm just having fun putting jewelry together over here. How about that one? How about that for sparkly? Those are some good daytime diamonds now.
Alessandro, scusa. Abbiamo una domanda. We have a question. If you have a catalog of these pieces, or an internet site where they can see your...
Yeah, of course. There is a website under my name, is alessandrobarellini.com.
Lorenzo, anyway, put it in the chat.
Okay, Alessandro?
Barellini.
Barellini with one
One R, two L.
Okay, I write in the chat for who are interested.
Okay.
Anyway, Elaine, I don't know. I don't know if you have. No, sorry.
No, Louis la Maison in the chat.
Okay.
So just really quickly, we're gonna make two of his grandmother's recipes, but really quickly, I want to show you all a couple other things that he does. And again, the sort of the intricate mechanisms. This is a ring that I have. I'm lucky enough to have, and I hope you can see it. I'll show you a different one if it does. This is actually emeralds, and I'm not going to show it to you closely because Zoom is making it look like rubies, but it's emeralds. But the point is that can you see that it's hinged? It moves. It fits like a glove. Look at this one. This is what
this is white gold. I use basically working with 18 karat gold, white gold, rose gold, or yellow gold.
So here's this ring. It's white gold with diamonds. It's kind of hard to there.
This is flexible, so it really.
He makes it with. Look at that. He makes it with hinges. Can you imagine how comfortable that is? It's super comfortable. And all I can say is, every time I see this ring, I think, those men who say they don't want to wear a wedding ring because it's uncomfortable. Right here, boys, right here. You can't say you don't want to wear a wedding ring because it's not comfortable.
And this is I'll just say diamond for the day.
Daytime diamond.
Daytime diamond.
All the men can stop watch if want.
All right, one last thing is.
I mean, the fact is that I really like to play also what I'm doing. I'm trying to enjoy. When you work, what is the life of a craftsman?
Awesome.
Yes, sure. It's just try to put yourself in what you're doing.
Like first I get hypnotized, but watch this. Watch. And, first of all, if you just squeeze here.
And this actually is a spin top. Sorry.
Whoops.
Let me see here. Okay. So it's a spin top that you can work and play with.
So, but this is a prototype, which is what material?
This silver was a prototype, but it's realized by all the metals. So,
but if you look on his website, he has one. It's like really worn gold and black diamonds all the way around on the edge. It's really beautiful, and it's got this great little mechanism. You'd think that if I had all those black diamonds hanging around my neck, it's really secure though, right?
Like, yeah, it's secure. I mean,
like it's got this little secret trick. I love the ones that have these little secret tricks, like that pendant that you kind of pop it open. So he's definitely got the Renaissance Goldsmith genes in here.
We have a very interesting question.
Oh, good.
Chris Ann asked, the rings that are puzzles to put together, are each of those pieces made individually in lost wax?
Every piece is made individually in lost wax. Actually, I mean, there are some way to. I mean, every piece of jewelry can be made in a different way. They use different techniques. Those pieces were made first of all, soldered every single little piece of metal all together with soldered. So the original piece is made by metal directly, not in wax, because in this way we cannot do. The wax is a little bit more raw as a result. So for round forms, I like also square things. So these are all mounted, every single piece is soldered together. After that,
soldered,
yes. After that, we use also some technique just to try to develop and to make faster little production. And so we pass with a little mold in the wax process.
Very good question. Thank you, Christine. All right, we are going to get working on some of Alessandro's grandmother's recipes. Okay.
So, anyway, it's nice to see you. If you have questions, feel free.
Yes, we're gonna open up the mic. Look, I'm gonna look at my lovely pendant I'm modeling tonight. So we're gonna open the mics up at the end, and if y'all have any questions in the meantime, type them into the chat. And Lorenzo will either read them aloud, or I'll in any event see them tomorrow and be able to respond. And we will take questions once we get the food kind of going. Okay, so I'm going to move the computer so y'all can kind of see us working.
So what we present is our couple of recipes that I was having when I was kid with my grandma. I mean, one of the two, of course. And here in Florence, we like the cardi, that is a vegetable, and I will explain everything about. And so this is a cardi with a little polpette di cardi. Polpette means little bowl.
Right.
And then the chicken made with olives and
White
vegetables.
wine.
White wine.
Right.
The original pollo stufato.
Oh, good. Stufato or brasato?
So brasato, stufato, every place.
Okay, so we're gonna start with the chicken made in white wine. Giusto?
Okay.
Let's see. All right,
Let
devi
me-
mettere questo.
Maybe you have to take a little bit.
Cosa?
The schedule.
No, no, ti vedo bene. Vediamo bene, vediamo bene.
Okay.
Okay, va bene. Allora, hang on. I don't want to get this right. All right, so we're going to start off with this chicken recipe, which his grandmother actually made with rabbit. And that's kind of a common thing here because these, grazie. The families that lived out in the countryside, like the people who lived in my house, for example, they had what they called animale di cortile, courtyard animals. Vuoi prendere la roba per il pollo? Anche, dammi l'olio, faccio io l'olio.
Yes.
Okay, so we're doing like sous chefing here. Grazie. So the animale di cortile are small animals that basically lived in the courtyard out front, and they were rabbits, chickens, ducks, cosa, what else? Were animale di cortile, courtyard animals.
And there was the ducks or
Ducks, geese,
or chicken, of course.
chicken. So yeah, we're actually doing
Rabbits.
rabbits. Yeah, rabbit was very popular around here. And so we're making this recipe with chicken, which is his grandmother's recipe. So I have.
We have the chicken. We already cut it and we already prepared something just to make it faster.
So I just smashed a garlic clove. I think y'all saw me. I just peeled that and smashed it, and I'm gonna let that warm up with a little bit of olive oil.
And all the ingredients, I mean, Elena is really a specialist of really good food, as you know, and so as the oil we are using is one of the best in the world, of course.
Oh, why? Thank you.
No, it's true. It's not just for the so all the ingredients and we already prepared it. It's really easy and simple to prepare this dish.
This is a luscious dish, is what it is.
Yeah, we put a little bit of extra virgin olive oil and just a piece of garlic. And when the oil is hot, we put the chicken or the rabbit or whatever you want. It can be good for other meats, of course. And then we rosoliamo un po'.
So we're gonna kind of brown the meat just a little bit before we put all the vegetables in. So just a couple of minutes.
Vegetables are
I'm gonna go ahead and add this.
carrots and celery. My grandma probably used also the onions.
But neither one of us like onions, so we're skipping it.
I like better garlic. I really like garlic. So basically, this is a classical soffritto. You know, soffritto is a base of a Tuscan kitchen. You know, it's carrots, celery, or onion, or whatever. And before everything, and then we put water, even for the sauce.
So we decided that we don't really like onions, and we also really like the sweetness of the carrot here with this dish, and the way it goes with. We're also going to add a couple little black olives and some white wine, and so we made an executive decision to boot the onion. So I'm just letting the chicken just kind of cook a little bit on all sides. Oh, ce l'ho qui dietro.
Okay. So in the time that Elena is taking care about the chicken, we can try to do the polpette di cardi. The cardo, this is the cardo, and probably Elena can explain a little bit better. This is a traditional here in Tuscany or in Italy. I don't know, it's not popular anymore. It's even difficult to find on the market or whatever.
Actually, I see it in the grocery store, and out here in the countryside where I live, you still do find it. I think it's It's a little bit laborious, so maybe it's not the most popular vegetable anymore, but it's interesting. It comes from, it's the same family as the artichoke. And if you look at the leaves, actually look like an artichoke plant, but it doesn't make the flower like an artichoke. And so it looks, basically, it looks like a big, huge celery, but it tastes like artichoke. And it's so good. I really, really like it. It only comes in during the winter, and it really benefits from cold weather. So it's really good right now because we have a cold snap. And the way you use it, you just take off the stalk as if it were celery.
What is the outside? Yes, it's.
So yeah, the very outer one I might not use. These are pretty tender though. And so the way that you cook these is to remove the leaves, and then you kind of, the way you would maybe string a celery. So I've taken the leaves off. I'm going to take off kind of the pointy little bits here. So I'm just going to kind of literally kind of just like shave down, kind of peel it off like a celery stalk, or just actually cut it. And you can actually, the same recipe you can actually do with celery. So I think these are called cardoons in English. And I think if you live in the great Midwest, you can find them. In the South, I think they grow sort of where rhubarb grows. And I believe you can find them. I've seen them in the U.S. in those kind of more colder climates. And if you can't find these, you can do the exact same thing with celery. And I'm going to send you the recipe, obviously, tomorrow. So I'm going to kind of cut it open, and then I'm going to just cut it into kind of, 5-inch long pieces, and just kind of take some of the strings out. I'm not really being surgical about this, but some of the big fat strings that come off, I am removing them. You don't have to remove all of that. And it's really easy. You don't have to remove too much. You don't want to do that. So just some of the
fiber that are really, so if you take
it's pretty fibrous. These happen to be pretty tender ones, and then they just get boiled, and you really just boil them in salted water until they're tender. And these started off tender, so about 10-15 minutes I think I boiled them, and then when they're done, they look like this. And then from this point, you can make an omelet, you can make lasagna, or you can do what we're going to do, which is make these little polpette.
Exactly. And also, this kind of vegetable is a little bitter.
It is bitter.
When you boil a little bit, it becomes a little sweeter. Anyway.
Wait, hang on a second. I'm going to go ahead and dump these in. So I'm going to put the vegetables in here with the chicken. So the deal with the chicken is it's kind of browned on all sides. I've just put in our chopped up vegetables. I'm going to put salt and pepper. And then I'm going to let it cook down. I'm going to add some lime, cover it. It's going to sit for 45 minutes. And then it really turns into this luscious. We'll show you the finished effect. Okay.
The smell is really good. So, can I start with this? Those are the cardoons that were boiled, and we have to cut them really smaller as possible. Just to try to, I mean, you can use a mixer also, but
well, wait a minute.
never say to my grandma that we use a mixer.
So when we were prepping today, and I said, well, let's just get out the Cuisinart in order to make our battuto, and he made fun of me, and he said he refused. So he totally refused.
No, I refused also because in the mixer sometimes things are not in the right.
He thinks it's going to turn into a liquid or something. I just figure if just be careful with it. I give you permission to use you can use the Cuisinart for the vegetable. Although for this you would not use the Cuisinart because the Cuisinart would liquefy. It would literally liquefy the cardoons, but it wouldn't even cut through the fiber. You would have this weird fibery liquidy mess. So you do need to use a knife for this. He's going to do it really fine. He's going to pass back over that. But yeah, the carrot and celery, just go for the Cuisinart. Keep an eye on it.
Yeah, I mean, I need to cut a little as small as possible, but not squeeze it. I mean, it's not really good. So I'm cutting smaller as possible. It depends on the taste, actually. If you
He's
like
a lot more precise than I am. So we're getting nice, precise.
No, I mean, I'm a Goldsmith. I work in a small thing, so of course I'm trying to do everything as it needs to be done.
Io ti devo dare però una bacinella.
Yeah.
Dove? È qua.
There is some boiling
Oh, John.
because they can become a little tender. But I mean, I don't
It
like.
also preserves the color.
And for the color, of course.
They
Yes.
say that these can they kind of oxidize like
It's like artichoke.
artichokes. And they say that when you're boiling them, if you put a spoonful of flour in there, that maintains the color. But I find it tends to make them like neon green, which is just not natural looking. And I don't know, it's an extra step, and there's not really, you don't have to do that.
When I roll, you just put in the water with a little bit of lemon, and the color won't change. Anyway, this is almost. We are almost there.
I have to do garlic for you though.
Yeah, please.
So we're gonna make a kind of a mixture to make our little polpette. You know, it's like meatballs but with cardoons.
The kitchen is going. Seems pretty nice.
Aggiungo il vino?
Not yet. I mean,
Okay, not yet. We're gonna let the vegetables cook a little bit more. I'm gonna show this to y'all. If I'm able to, I'm gonna show you. So the chicken is nicely browned, and the vegetables are cooking. And when they cook down some more, I'm gonna add the wine. And then we're just gonna cover it, and then it's all on its own from there.
Elaine, I have a question.
Okay.
Okay, it's because you don't like using the onion that you prefer to work with Alessandro instead of me?
I mean, I like onion.
Because I love onions.
So you're not invited back either.
Yeah, but you know, my grandma for sure was using onion.
All right,
But
so
Elena,
hey, it's my house, okay? That's all I have to say. All right, so we're gonna add. This is the chopped up boiled cardoons. We're gonna add just some really kind of simple flavors. We're gonna add Parmesan,
Parmigiano.
salt,
I mean, we already grattato.
grated, and then we're gonna add a little bit of garlic paste. And I'm making a paste. Y'all seen me do this before.
A little bit of salt, not too much because the Parmesan is already.
And I have some salt here. C'è sale anche qui.
And yeah.
So I'm making this garlic paste. I'm smashing half of a garlic clove with the back of a knife with some salt because that gives it some friction and helps break the fibers down. And so the reason I'm doing this is because if I were just to chop this, you would end up with little bits of garlic, and you would actually bite into little bits of garlic, and I don't care for that either. It's like the onion.
And a little bit of pepper.
And so I'm making kind of a paste out of the garlic, and I'm chopping and smashing, and it turns into a paste. And that way you just get a very delicate garlic flavor all throughout without actually biting down on any piece of garlic. So that's the point. Quanto vuoi? Metà di questo?
Yes.
So we're using about a quarter of a garlic clove for that amount of. I think we might need to put the wine in.
Okay, good. And did you put salt and pepper?
Oh no, maybe in the wine.
On the chicken, a little bit of pepper.
Sorry, I get distracted. There's so many cooks in the kitchen.
Little bit of salt. You can adjust the salt after eventually. And then we put the fire higher a little bit, and then wine, and that's all. And then all the alcohol need to evaporate. It's good to evaporate.
Yes, it's
We
good.
need to make it up. And when the alcohol is evaporated, we put the cover.
And lower the heat.
Lower the heat. Lower it is, better is. But after 45 minutes, even 1 hour, it depends on the quantity.
Right.
Things are ready. So we can go back here with the cardoons, Parmesan, a little bit of salt, a little bit of garlic, and we put 1 egg. We have special eggs here.
Special minute baby eggs. Can y'all see how small they are? Here, I'm gonna just pick one.
Really nice.
Can y'all look at that? Is that the cutest thing in the whole wide world? I don't know if it's a little baby chicken chicken, or he said it's because it's early in the season, so they're making these little minute. These are just like little Barbie eggs.
Usually after the winter they are started to do. So one egg, it depends on the quantity of the cardoons. We put one egg, and with a spoon, please.
Fork or spoon?
Spoon. I mean, this work need to be made by hands, but before I start with to impaste everything, to mix everything. Sorry.
That's good.
And it's really easy, this dish.
So the point, though, what we're going to do with these croquettes is,
as you can see, I mean, you can work on it really hard. And this is the consistency. Don't have to be. Don't have to be.
So the consistency is a little bit almost kind of wet-ish, but the egg is in there. So we're going to actually fry these in a good bit of olive oil, and the egg kind of makes them hold together. And then what we're going to do, and this is kind of the Tuscan grandmother trick, is the polpette. Then basically you do this ahead, and the polpette get rewarmed in the pan drippings of the chicken or rabbit or whatever it was you made, and it's really yummy.
So this part is finished, and now we already put some olive oil or extra virgin olive oil on the
yes, on the flame.
On the flame, and when I don't know if it's ready, we start. I mean, this is nice because you can choose your shape. I mean, if you like to have round or little squeezed, or I mean, this is up to you. And to do this job, we needed to use the hands, right. Of course. Hands are always helpful.
Oh, and then I also got another little kitchen tip today, which is that apparently you're supposed to put a piece of bay laurel, which I think y'all know I love, in.
I'm going for a
olive
little
oil.
round.
I'm going for a little round also.
Yeah, there is
there's kind of liquidy.
A little liquidy.
We had our cardoons very much dry, but as they were sitting waiting for us to talk about jewelry, they seem to have produced some more liquid. So ideally they would be drier, but they're fine.
After boiling, to be squeezed as much as possible. We are doing now the little round, not too rounded, but little rondelle.
Little flat things. So I'm going to put apparently if you put a bay leaf in the olive oil when you're frying, it won't burn. But I think it will still burn, but I think it's just going to taste really good. So that's pretty much hot. And I'm also going to put a piece in here with the chicken because why not? Okay, quello è caldissimo. Proviamo. All right, so we're just going to fry a couple of these, and then we'll show you kind of the done dish and how this works when it's passed through the pan drippings. Io dico basta. Si fa tre. Dai, poi si fa dopo.
Okay.
Okay. So we did the grandmother trick and we made these ahead. So I'm going to make 3 for y'all, but we also have an oven full of polpette.
Polpette. Of course, polpette is what's used to do in Italian house with all the leftover. You know, you can do polpette with, you have the meat, you have the vegetable.
We have made polpette in here. We literally made Lorenzo's grandmother's polpette. So now we're making Alessandro's grandmother's polpette. So now we have grandmother's polpette.
My grandmother was using to do different kind of polpette. This is one type, of course.
And she also would make with the cardoons. Your grandmother made like parmigiana with tomato sauce.
Yeah, here in Tuscany, the cardoons are used to eat with the parmigiana. We call parmigiana, but it's basically the cardoons. At this time, we cut a little piece like this. We boil the same process. Then we fried, and it has to be put in the after fried, put in the pot with the tomato sauce and basil and whatever are really good.
And that's kind of a typical Tuscan thing, one that I actually have not sort of warmed up to too much.
So
the tomato sauce on everything.
Tomato in Tuscany is like the first thing. I don't know, spaghetti al pomodoro is one of the main dishes here in Tuscany, actually in Italy in general. Because,
but there were no tomatoes in use until sort of 1800.
Yeah, of course.
How do you explain that?
Probably this is the reason, because that's so that we knew about tomatoes that we are using.
I'm putting my sparkly daytime diamonds back on now that my hands are clean.
I think that my grandmother and also Alessandro's grandmother usually make meatballs or all the other polpette because they don't throw anything because they try to reuse all the things because they have no so much food that we have now. So they reuse all the pieces of the meat, of the vegetables that they have.
Exactly. And polpetta is the best way to use all the leftovers with the test, because they're really good at the end, right?
And they are. And here are some polpette.
Here are some polpette already done.
It's very in Florence. Cardoons. The name of the cardoons are gobbi.
Yeah, why is that?
I don't know, but the name is gobbi.
Gobbi means hunchback, by the way. So gobbi means a hunchback.
Yeah. You can find a very typical recipe in Florence. This is gobbi trippati.
Oh.
It's like a gobbi is a cardoons made like the tripe. So with the tomato and parmesan is like the parmigiana that Alessandro said. But we call gobbi trippati.
Really good. I don't know if I know exactly, but I heard that the gobbi are because this plant is cultivated during the winter, so it need, and usually before starting are covered by
the snow, for example.
And so the cardoons are called cardi because this part it become like
right.
This.
Sometimes when you buy them, yeah, they're called go because it has a little hunchback on it. Sometimes they seem to wrap it up to protect it from the cold, and it grows kind of.
To get out from the soil, they are doing this. I mean, I heard that this is the reason. In north of Italy, they are cultivating in a different way, and you can also eat raw. With the bagna cauda, it's really good.
Oh, but they're so bitter.
Are bitter, but there is one place in Italy, Monferrato, somewhere, I don't know.
Somewhere in
that they are specialized in this cardoon, the gobbi, and are really, really good and also sweet. Little. So we are near. We need to clean up a little bit.
So we have fried our Dune fritters, or Dune polpette. And I'm gonna just put these. I'm gonna put the rabbit on a plate, and I'm gonna run these through.
We've made a mess here.
We made a little bit of a mess. I'm gonna put the rabbit on a plate, and I'm going to, or the chicken on a plate, and I'm gonna run the polpette through the pan drippings. And y'all can feel free to ask questions at this point. If y'all want to even open your microphone and ask a question, grazie. Anybody has questions for Alessandro while we have him here in the kitchen?
I have another theory of the name gobbi. Because the ground is low, so if in winter, if you want to take your vegetables out of the ground, you have to go back very near to the, and you have your handbag. So.
No, I was thinking you were talking about football teams or something.
No.
Yeah, that's probably, that's a good one, Lorenzo.
Yeah, it is.
We forgot the olives.
The olives. I mean, now is the time to put the olives. Of course.
Good. We didn't forget.
The chicken is working pretty well.
Yeah.
How big are those florins? What would be the diameter of that coin?
Oh, that's a good question.
The name is Fiorino.
Ma hai capito la domanda?
The monete.
Sì, ma il diametro.
Yeah, the name of that coin is Fiorino. Is a really is famous. Fiorino Fiorentino. It has a specific weight because it was made in pure gold. So every Fiorino needed to be a specific weight. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly. I don't want to say something wrong, but I think it's around 6 grams or something.
But is it like this, or is it like that? I kind of think it's like that.
The weight is like 20 cents, 25 cents, a quarter, something.
Oh, okay.
Little bit, but they are flat. But the point of that coin is the weight because it was gold. So the gold established the value of the coin.
Is there going to be a way that we can purchase your jewelry?
Sorry?
Yes, there is. He's being very humble. He says, what? Dice, come si può comprare i tuoi jewelry? No, but look, he has his website, which I think I'm going to send you. I've already
L'ho scritto nella chat.
my website. Lorenzo put it in the chat. And just to also mention, I don't think I have anything on me right now, but he also does really great custom jewelry. And I actually have several pieces that Alessandro made.
To work together the customers what is important for an artisan in general? I mean, I'm talking about myself, but I think it's a general thing. When we work together and we create something special and specific, and we put ourselves inside, I really like that customer is happy, not just because a nice piece, but because it's part of the creation. Only if you wear your part. And yes, I have my workshop in Florence. It is open to the public right now. It's so pretty difficult to travel. Anyway, you can go online. It's www.alessandrobarellini.com, and there is a website. There is an e-commerce also that I just opened. And anyway, you can write, ask question. We can be in touch, Skype or whatever. If any idea, any question, I'm really happy to. The dinner is ready.
So we're gonna eat.
Wow! Now that's rabbit. Is that rabbit?
This is rabbit. We actually made the rabbit. We went for the rabbit with the cardoon fritters that were then just warmed up in and drippings. I can look at Maria Luisa. We have our native Italian on the line. She looks hungry.
Are the fritters crispy? How solid do you make them with the fry?
They're
Where is
they're all in the well, the thing is they're not super crispy, and they what?
No, sorry.
Non sono croccantini.
No. Usually, if you just fry, they can become crispy on the side.
But we just rolled them in flour. They don't have a batter on them, so they don't have that crunch like you would if you used an egg batter. If you could actually do that. I would run them in egg first, egg, flour, then fry them, and you'd get a really good crispy crust. But the flour here is just to kind of make sure they don't fall apart in the oil, and then you run them through the sauce anyway, so it's kind of softish. It's not super crispy.
Great,
and
thanks.
you could also use rice flour, which would make them a little more crisp.
That is true. Rice flour is just like, very, very crunch. Gives it a crunch.
We use also the pangrattato, bread.
You could use breadcrumbs, and breadcrumbs would also maintain some crunch too. So Maria Luisa,
Like artichoke. The flavor is artichoke.
Yes, it is. Y'all look for it. If you live in sort of a northern climate, you can probably find them. I know I've seen them. I know they are grown, maybe, smaller producers in the United States. So it kind of comes from that wild thistle family, which, you see that kind of spiky, silvery green leaf with the purple flower. It's all in that same family. So artichokes, wild thistles, and then the cardi. And it's got this amazing perfume. I don't even know how to describe the
and the flowers are really nice. When you can eat, but they're really
So
as the artichoke flowers.
Right. So it's got that really good kind of bitter flavor. It's just a great optional winter vegetable, and I think they have a lot of good health properties, which I'll look it up and I'll send that to you tomorrow because I'm not sure what it is, but I'm pretty sure most Italian vegetables are drenante. right, Maria Luisa?
Sì, sì, sì.
So it should like I think it's sort of like a kind of a detox.
Yeah.
I think Kroger sold out.
What?
I think Kroger sold out.
But you can do this with celery, and also I love celery. Celery is an overlooked vegetable. I love celery. I'll make a celery risotto, which is great. So celery is the star, and you can actually make this exact same thing with celery. And 2 weeks from now, we're not going to have these anymore, and I'll be making them with celery. So that's it's a great recipe, and I would encourage y'all to do that. So don't skip it because you can't get the cardi. Okay. Any more questions?
Squisita.
Don't forget to put Alessandro's information on your email tomorrow.
I will not forget. His information is on the announcement that you received. You can also get to that on my website, and I'll send it to you again tomorrow. And Lorenzo, maybe we'll type it in one more time before we sign off.
Yeah, I write 2 times.
Okay, good. Grazie.
Was it just
Bravissimi.
all
Grazie
that-
Alessandro, grazie.
Grazie a voi.
Grazie Elaine.
Elaine.
Grazie.
Grazie a tutti.
Grazie a
Ciao a
tutti.
tutti.
Elaine,
Ciao.
Speriamo di vederti.
Wonderful.
Buongiorno.
Wonderful. Bye.
But all those rings fit you?
What?
Was it a coincidence that all those rings were your size? That you
Oh.
No, those are.
So these are mine. No, the other ones, that was a coincidence. The fact hey, Elizabeth Goodwin. Hey, Lorraine. Yeah, it was a coincidence. And actually, he has a lot of customers in Japan, and I have small fingers, but their fingers are smaller than mine. So we left those in the bag.
Customer in US too, so the size are.
No, he makes all sizes, but I was just saying I chose the ones that fit me because he also has some little. He brought some little teensy ones.
Yeah,
But he clearly he does everything to order, so you can get.
I remember when I was there maybe 10 years ago at one point, we went to his shop, and you mentioned you had a place in Japan. Do you still have a showroom, a bottega in Japan?
Yeah. No, I don't have anymore the showroom in Japan. I still work with them because Asia in general. I mean Asia, Japan, Korea. But there is not anymore the showroom. There was a little complicated. I mean, I'm a little company, I have 2 hands only. So, we have to do things step by step and at the right time with the right step.
Okay.
But
At the time, I was staying at the Savoy on Piazza della Repubblica
yes.
Hotel. And I mentioned your shop to the concierge.
Oh, thank you.
So thankful because he said, I always need unique places to send my clients. And I said, well, you must go there and check it out. So if you get any customers from the Savoy, I want the commission.
Okay.
One thing that I'm sure, actually, one thing we did not mention here, but that is actually interesting.
No problem. I will give an additional ring. I will give as a gift for Elaine.
Perfect.
It is fine for you, of course. So you don't have to take care about birthday gifts and Christmas gift or whatever.
Right, you can just pass it right on. Well, one thing that's cool about Alessandro that we did not say before, which I'm sure the concierge at the Hotel Savoy was probably thrilled about, is that there aren't that many contemporary jewelry artisans, goldsmiths working in Florence right now. And a lot of people tend to just kind of basically respond to the tourist economy. And there are a lot of people making, copies, right? When we talked about that before, they're not keeping tradition dynamic, they're making it static. And that's what Alessandro is not doing. Alessandro is keeping tradition dynamic. And so that's why I think it's so important to kind of know how he works and then support him. So when y'all come to Florence, we'll all go visit Alessandro in the bottega and try on daytime.
Sì. Arriveremo.
Bene, spero di sì.
We're really torn because this situation is really.
Yeah, we both very much, all of us, and Lorenzo, we look forward to seeing y'all here.
To travel again because I
wait.
travel.
Presto.
Grazie,
Presto.
Elena. Lorenzo, buonasera.
Buonasera a tutti.
Ciao.
Y'all have a good
Grazie.
day. All right,
Hi,
sign it off.
everybody.
I'm already in,
Ciao.
in the catalog.
Thank
She's
you.
already shopping.
I'm already shopping on the catalog.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Ciao.
It's
Bye-bye.
wonderful. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.
Pretty cool. That was pretty.